Well. Here we are again to talk about Make It or Break It. One of my comfort shows that I like to rewatch, I don't know, every year maybe? Every 2 years? I don't even know. But I've been sharing my rewatch experience with you all this time around and giving a little recap of each season. I've done season 1, season 2, and you can go watch those videos if you want. They're on my channel. And now we are doing season 3, which just so happens to be the last season of Make It or Break It. The show got canceled. Can't imagine why. And they quickly tried to come out with a third season to kind of wrap everything up. So there's only 8 episodes in season 3, whereas the other seasons both have 20 episodes. So hopefully this video won't be as long as those, but who knows. This season basically has the girls at the Olympic Training Center to get ready for Olympic trials. This season is not my favorite. I mean, there's several reasons that we will get into throughout the video, and I'm going to do a little wrap up at the end. But, it just feels like an entirely different show. There's, a new coach, new girls, and it's just the vibes are different, and the video quality is way better in this season, and it's just, I don't know, the acting is worse, and Lauren has a redemption arc, and I don't know, they just feel like different characters, and it's just, I think everyone just kind of gave up, and which, it was getting canceled, so I guess I can understand that, but it's a very different show than, season 1 and season 2, so I guess let's just jump right in. So season 3, episode 1, starts with all the girls, Payson, Kaylee, Lauren. So the episode starts with all 3 of them showing up at the USA Olympic Training Center, which is a place where all of the USA Olympic teams come to train. I guess I'm assuming this is a real place. I don't know if in the show it's them training before trials, but I feel like in real life it's a place where people train after they've made the team and before the Olympics. It's where they go before they actually go to the Olympics, maybe? I don't know. I think it's supposed to be an Olympic village kind of thing, but yeah, anyways. So they're all squealing and hugging and excited, and their parents are there as well. So we have Payson's dad, Mark. Also, our girl Kim is not in this season at all. So R.I.P. Kim. You are missed. Kaylee's dad, Alex. Kaylee's mom, Ronnie. And Lauren's dad, Steve. So they're all there dropping off the girls, bringing all their stuff to the training center. And Sasha is also there. They show him talking to the Olympic coach, who is... Okay, now, my printer is officially out of black ink, so I'm gonna put in pictures in post of these new characters that are in season 3 because the printed out pictures are atrocious, but I'm gonna put them up just to have them, there. So we have Coach McIntyre. I told you they were bad. And he is the U.S. women's gymnastics coach that's going to be picking the girls that make it to the Olympic team and training them until then and then after. And Sasha's there talking to him about the girls and telling him how special they are. And the coach is a little bit skeptical because he wants girls that are going to be okay individually if some of their friends don't make it. He doesn't want girls there who aren't going to be able to win gold without, their bestie there. And he also mentions that he hasn't seen anything special from Payson since she broke her back. So That was a nice thing to say. Um, and also Sasha in this season looks very different. He's got like the slick back hair. It's giving like older Draco Malfoy a little bit. It's like, Sasha baby, I don't know if that's 100% your look. It's I don't know, it's not my favorite. I prefer short hair Sasha, but that's neither here nor there. Coach McIntyre also mentions that Lauren gives him the impression that she's a spoiled diva, which he's not wrong. And he questions if she's actually coachable, and he doesn't like the fact that she's a beam specialist. He wants all the girls to be all around. And then he also questions where Kaylee is with her eating disorder. So, he's a little iffy on the girls before he's even met them. And then we are introduced to a girl who is Jordan, and we are first introduced to her. She is sitting in the passenger seat of an 18-wheeler, catching a ride from a truck driver, and she's like knitting in the front seat, and she's being kind of snappy to the truck driver, and then she like offers her a burrito, and so she eats it, and she starts being nice and telling her story. And we find out that she's lived with 5 different families and was a foster child. And so basically this is the show's new underdog. Now that Emily's not there, we need someone from a not as clean cut background to come in and triumph, someone to root for, I guess, because the girls that we've watched for 3 seasons aren't enough, I guess. So okay, so back at the training center, the parents are all, taking pictures of the girls, getting ready, acting like they're leaving for college kind of thing. And then they get them all moved in, and Lauren shows up to Payson and Kaylee's room with a new fragrance that she is going to be selling with QVC. That is how dated the show is. QVC is a good thing at this time. My mom still uses QVC, by the way. She'd be like, oh, they have a great deal of that at QVC. I'm like, girl. And then the perfume she made is called Winter. And it apparently smells like crap, so that's good. And then Kaylee goes to meet Austin because he is training here as well, for the men's Olympic team. And she says that he's already been there a week, and it's the longest they've been apart and since Worlds, and she really misses him. And then Payson makes a comment saying that she hasn't seen Max, who I'm not going to put up here because we do not see him at all. We just hear his name. So that she has not seen Max in months, and that they've been sending each other like love letters basically. And it's okay, Payson. And Lauren makes a comment like, what, are you Amish? And then we see Austin showing Kaylee and her parents around this training center, and they walk by the bust of a guy. It's like a big, like, gold bronzish bust of a man's head, and we find out that his name is Otis, and he was a man who died on campus, and he has like a bald head, and if you rub his head for luck, and then the teams try to steal him, and whichever team ends up with him at the end of training always medals at the Olympics. So we will see a lot more of Otis, but that is the lore of Otis. Then we see Lauren hugging her dad before he leaves, and she kind of like gets a little dizzy woozy for a second, and her dad's like, oh, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, it's just the altitude. And then we see Jordan again, and she shows up in Coach McIntyre's office and says that she's there for camp, or she's there to try out, and he's like, I didn't invite you here. And she's like, I was junior champion 4 years ago. And he says, and you were a source of trouble at every gym you trained at since. Like, I don't want you in my gym. She hasn't she hasn't competed in a sanctioned event in 2 years, and he sends her away. And then Sasha gives the girls one last pep talk, and he gives Payson back his Olympic medal that he had given her in season 2, I think, or maybe end of season 1, I can't remember, and tells her again that she needs to keep it until she gets one of her own. Then we see Lauren, and she's walking near Otis, and a group of guys is like rubbing his head, and one of them, whose name is Jake, he runs over and flags down a security guard and basically accuses Lauren of stealing his phone. And he's using her as a distraction, because while he's got the security guard distracted with this farce, the other boys that were rubbing the head steal Otis and take him with them. And it's the wrestling team, because he's a wrestler and it was his wrestling friends that stole Otis. And after they take him, Jake's like, oh, this is embarrassing. Actually, it was in the wrong pocket the whole time. And then Lauren realizes what happened, and she's like, you used me. And the guy's like, welcome to the TC. And then he leaves. And then we see Lauren picking up the mail, and she starts opening a letter that has Payson's name on it from Max. And before she can get it open, a girl comes up to her whose name is Wendy. And she's basically like a 15-year-old gymnast who's also there to train. And she's very upbeat and bubbly and annoying. And she's talking to Lauren like, oh, I'm such a big fan. And then, but also kind of gives her some backhanded compliments. And Lauren's like, that's okay. And she quickly gets on Lauren's nerves, which she quickly gets on my nerves as well. And she like is going on and on about how she was juniors champ. And she's just, she's 15. Which I was not like that at 15, but whatever. So Lauren then lies to Payson and tells her that there was no mail for her. Kaylee comes home from visiting Austin, and she's like, let's go do something fun. And so they all break into the gymnastics gym and stand on the podium there and take turns like standing on the gold and cheering, pretending, obviously they want gold. And Jordan is actually in the gym as well. She had the camera set up, and when she heard them coming in, she quickly took it down and hid. So she's like watching this whole thing in the gym. We also see Lauren get dizzy again while she's on the podium, and Kaylee's like, it's probably her perfume. It's making me dizzy. And then Lauren that night reads the letter that Max sent, and in it she finds out that Max is breaking up with Payson. And then it's the next day, and Jordan gives the coach a thumb drive that has the videos that she took in the gym last night of her doing her routines and such, so that hopefully the coach will watch it and see that she's amazing and put her on the team or put her in training. And she basically begs him to watch it, and he's still not budging. And so she leaves it on the car window and walks away. And then Lauren gives Payson the letter and kind of nudges her to read it before practice. And then Payson's like, no, I want to, have a date night with tonight and read it and whatever. So they arrive for their first practice at the Olympic Training Center, and there's a board with all the girls' names on it, in a hierarchical order. It's two lists. It's I think it's 1 through 7 and then 8 through 14, and it's kind of like an Abby Lee Miller pyramid situation. So the girls on the first half of the board train with Coach Mack, and the girls on the second half of the board train with the assistant coaches. And according to Wendy, you do not want to be on the second half of the board. And Lauren falls and passes out while they're doing conditioning during practice, and her coach says, I do not have time for girls that don't take care of yourself. Go see the nutritionist. And then at the end of the day, Lauren has her place on the board moved down to the bottom of the first list. So she's in 7th place. Kaylee's at the top, and then Payson is 6th place, I think. And we then see Lauren meeting with the nutritionist, who is Annie. And Annie tells Lauren that it's, probably hypoglycemia, which basically means low blood sugar, because Lauren said she didn't eat breakfast that day. And so she tells her, to eat, and hopefully she won't pass out anymore. And then Lauren leaves, and Coach Matt comes in and is kissing on the nutritionist, and they make it seem like they're cheating or something, because she mentions his wife, but she's actually his wife, and I guess she was making a joke, but I don't know, they're trying to make it more dramatic, but that is his wife. They are married. There's no cheating going on. And then there is a mixer kind of party thing for all the athletes that afternoon. And some guy named Rigo comes up to Lauren and tries to ask her something, and she immediately shuts him down because she thinks he's hitting on her, and she's like, leave me the f- alone. And then Austin comes up and takes Kaylee away to talk to marketing reps because he thinks they can market themselves as like the golden couple, and they have like a cute little moment and whatnot. And then Lauren talks to some wrestlers, and one of them being Jake and the other one being like a bigger, taller guy who I don't know if they actually say his name. And she like starts to flirt with him and is touching on him and trying to get him to tell her where he put Otis. And Jake is like, no, don't fall for this. Do not tell her a single thing. Payson gets hit on at the party by some guy whose name I cannot remember, and she tells him that she has a boyfriend who she then goes to have the date with and goes home so she can read the letter. And then they show Jordan, and she's sleeping in a tent somewhere on the grounds, I guess, and she's like talking to someone, and for a second you like think she's on the phone because she has like headphones in, but she's actually just talking to her pet bunny who's just in the tent with her, which is, I mean, it's a really cute bunny, and I love bunnies, so So Payson goes home to have her letter reading date, and she's reading it, and her face quickly falls as she gets further into the letter and realizes that Max broke up with her. And then they cut to the next day, and Jordan is like holding up signs that she wrote to the coach as he drives through the parking lot, asking if he's watched the video and when does she start training. And he drives away and kind of blows her off, and she's like, well, shit, what now? And at practice, Payson is really struggling because she's obviously distracted and distraught from the Max situation. Kaylee and Lauren notice this, and they're like, what's going on with Payson? And Lauren's like, well, you see, I accidentally read the letter, and Max actually broke up with her. And Kaylee's like, how do you accidentally read someone's letter? And she's like, I thought it was for me. Yeah, okay, girl. So I then see a girl get kicked out of the training center and get dropped from the team. And then Payson gets moved farther down the list because she did so bad at practice that day and is now on the second side of the board. And then they kind of confront her about what's wrong, and Payson admits to them that Max broke up with her because his rehab is taking longer than he thought. Because remember, he like broke his collarbone from that wreck he was in with Lauren. He doesn't know if he wants to continue gymnastics or go to art school for photography, and he doesn't know what he wants to do, and that he needs to let her go and let her, do her own thing. And she's like freaking out because she's like, what did I do? Like, I must have did something wrong. Like, no, I mean, his points were pretty valid, So she then is about to do a Yurchenko 2.5 vault, and she like walks down to go do it, and Wendy, God bless her, comes up and she's like, she's gonna do that with her back at her age? Like, girl, she's 2 years older than you. I don't or 3 maybe, I don't know. But then Jordan walks in and says, you want to see a Yurchenko 2.5? I have one that'll leave smoke on the table, and walks down to the end of the vault run and is like about to do it. And Kaylee's like, oh my God, that's Jordan Randall. And Lauren says, your old friend Jordan Randall? And Kaylee's like, no, I just thought she was my friend. And then Coach Mac steps in front of Jordan before she can run on the vault. And she's like, okay, then I'll do uneven bar. I have a triple back dismount. And she tries to walk over there and do that. He tries to stop her again. And she's like, I can do it. Just watch the memory stick I gave you and you'll see. That afternoon after practice, Kaylee brings Austin over to talk to Payson about Max because, they're friends. And Austin tells her that she has to believe it's nothing she did, and that Max is just, going through some things, and he's being very vague kind of about Max's life being complicated. And he eventually tells her that, which, do not out your friends like this, but he tells her that Max is actually bisexual, and they're all kind of stunned for a second. And Payson's like, how did I not know? We told each other everything, and the way he kissed me.
And the way he kissed
me. And Lauren's like, he kissed me too.
Me too.
And Austin goes, me too.
Wait. You kissed him?
And Kaylee goes, huh?
I'll explain later. The point
And
is,
I'll insert a clip of this. It's really funny. But Payson then leaves the room and is like, now I understand why he didn't pick me. And Kaylee's like, really? Girl, Lauren, time and place, honey. And later, Kaylee and Payson are talking, and Lauren comes in and tells her to get over it because he was barely her boyfriend anyways. Like, they went on 3 dates and then he ran off to the Hamptons. He was basically just a glorified pen pal. She also tells them that she has an idea to cheer them up. They're going to steal Otis from the wrestlers because she just spent the last 2 hours making out with a wrestler. So he'd tell her where it is. And it's actually, they hid it on the roof of a building, and there's a bunch of security guards around, so they have to sneak around the building and whatnot, and they give Lauren like a boost up to get on the roof because the doors are locked. And I'm gonna insert a clip of this, but she does some like vampire level tricks she like kicks off a wall and backflips onto the, and it's like sped up. You can tell it's like not it's crazy. But she ends up getting on the roof and has Payson and Kaylee stand lookout and give her like a signal if the coast is clear so she can run across, I don't know, whatever. But while Lauren is up there, she starts to feel faint again and actually passes out. Meanwhile, Payson and Kaylee are on the ground, like looking up at the building to see where she is. And they're like, where is she? She's been up there a while. And all of a sudden, Wendy comes up and is like, what are you guys looking at? And Payson goes, stars, beat it. And Kaylee does like a shoe motion and Wendy walks off. And then Lauren walks up behind them, and she does not have Otis, but she does have a Barbie doll that the wrestlers left up there as kind of like bait, that has a note on it that clearly it says something about them being Barbies, or I don't know, like this is as close as you Barbies will get, something, whatever. And then as they're like reading it, the wrestlers run by with Otis. Like, how do they know what time they would? I don't know. And Jake, the one who's been taunting Lauren, kind of shouts out a taunt at them. They then show Coach Mac and Annie at their house, and he's watching the video of Jordan, and she lands like the triple back dismount, and they talk about how like no one's ever done that in competition before. And he gets a text from an unknown number ratting on that the Rock girls are breaking curfew and are like out late, I guess. I don't know. The text says something like, guess what your Rock girls are up to tonight or something. I don't know. And then he shows up at Jordan's tent and tells her that she has 1 week to prove herself and sets her up in a room. And he also calls Kaylee, Payson, and Lauren to meet with him at like a fire pit thing that the fire's on and whatnot. And he gives them a speech about team and that they don't choose their team, he does, and he has them burn their rock jackets. This is all very tribal council survivor vibes. It's like, what are we doing here? We want them to burn their stuff? And he says that they either have to burn it or they say goodbye to their Olympic dreams, which this is so dramatic, and no one would do this, okay? No coach is making them burn stuff. Anyways, it basically is symbolic to make them be like, we're leaving our, past allegiances behind and going into this with, making a new beginning and proving that they can function on their own kind of thing. I don't know. It was kind of harsh to me. Like, why? It's just, I don't know. It's just dramatic for no reason. He then brings Jordan up to them and tells them that she's their new teammate. And that is how episode 1 ends. Next, in episode 2, the girls are woken up by Coach Mac and an air horn and another coach. And they're like super early. And we are then, our girl, Kelly Parker, finally makes an appearance. I don't know why she wasn't in episode 1. Beats me. But they're doing some team bonding training that day, and Kaylee and Jordan speak a little bit, and it's very tense, and Kaylee congratulates her for, I guess, getting the training, but she's got a bit of an attitude when she says it, and Jordan says, And Jordan asks how her folks are, and Kaylee says, good. How's Coach Ray? We don't know who that is at this moment. And Jordan says, good, and they're both being quite snippy. So there's clearly some unsavory history between those two. And Lauren asks how Coach Mac even found out that they were breaking curfew, and Kelly says something about there being a narc in their midst and that she has a feeling it was Little Miss Sunshine. And Kelly's being nice and says to the girls, I know how hard that must have been for you. And Lauren says something mean to her, and Kaylee's like, thanks, KP, but it's kind of a rock girl thing. Girl, please. And Coach tells them that starting today, they will be working in pairs. They will be working, eating, sleeping with their partner, and they will also be rooming with them. The girls do not look happy about, and he announces the pairs are Jordan and Wendy, Kaylee and Kelly, and then Lauren and Payson. So right now, Kaylee and Payson are rooming together, so now they will have to, move to live with different girls. And Kaylee's not happy because, Payson's her bestie or whatever. And she doesn't really fully trust Kelly, because of the whole journal entry thing. So Kelly moves in with Kaylee, and Payson moves in with Lauren. And Kelly asks Kaylee what happened with her and Jordan in the past. And she tells her that they met at Ray Keegan's rhythmic gymnastics camp in Florida when they were younger, and she went there every summer, and they were besties. And all of a sudden, Jordan started really kissing up to the coach, and as soon as she became his favorite, she kind of iced Kaylee out and left her out of things, and he spent so much time focused on her and her gymnastics that he didn't have any time for any of the other gymnasts, including Kaylee. And Kelly says that she bets Jordan is the narc because she's already proved that she'll do anything to get into the training center. And I don't know, this drama between Jordan and Kaylee, it's like, girls, y'all were children. Let's let it go. Let's let this go. It's just really unserious. I don't think it would hold up in real life. You would either, I can't remember half the shit that happened between me and my friends when we were younger. I don't know. Kaylee's just kind of holding a grudge over she's holding a grudge over this. Yeah, and yeah, you forgive Lauren for sleeping with your boyfriend? Sure. Anyways, Coach Mac is talking to Annie, his wife, and mentions that he paired Lauren and Payson together because he thinks Kaylee is the glue and he wants to see what happens when she's removed, which is valid. And their first assignment as partners is to design a 1-minute routine for the other person that showcases their partner's strengths. We see Lauren get lightheaded again, and nothing really comes of it this time. Austin and Kaylee are hanging out. Austin tells her that he scheduled an on-camera commentator class for them to take so they can capitalize on the golden couple thing and learn how to talk in front of cameras. I don't know. They then show Kelly going through Kaylee's gym bag again in her room because they're roommates now. And they make it look really suspicious. And we'll see what comes of that later. But Payson and Lauren plan their routines for each other. And Payson's being unusually complacent and agreeable to Lauren, not fighting back on any of the moves that Lauren designed for her at all. And Lauren's like, what the hell's wrong with her? And Kelly and Kaylee go over theirs. And Kaylee's worried that hers is too simple. But Kelly explains that she'll get more points to show her beautiful lines, and with the switched moves and the routine Kaylee planned for Kelly is packed with hard moves, and Kelly lies and says that she can do those moves, and that she doesn't need help and will probably just run through it a couple of times on her own. So that can only end well. And then Wendy gives Jordan her routine, and Jordan she has it written on a paper, and Jordan changes it up, says and changes a bunch of things. This is what I'm doing. I'll only have a week to prove that I belong here, and I know what I'm good at. And Wendy's like, okay. And then Jordan confronts Kelly and is like, why didn't you tell your teammate that you can't do those moves? Because you want to be her bestie? I know Kaylee, and I know from experience that she'll stab you in the back first chance she gets. So clearly, whatever story, there's two sides to the story between whatever happens between Kaylee and Jordan. So we've heard Kaylee's side of it, and we're gonna have to wait and hear what Jordan's point of view was like. And Lauren is talking to Kaylee, and she says that the remedy for Payson's broken heart, because she's still upset about Max, is a new boy. And Kaylee's like, no, like, I know Payson better than you, and like, more distractions is not what she needs. And she makes Lauren promise that she won't get a boy for Payson. But I mean, we know Lauren, her promises mean nothing. So she immediately goes on the hunt to find a boy for Payson. She talks to some bikers, one of them being Rigo, and the other being the one who hit on Payson at the mixer. And his name is Brad, and she sets up a chance meeting for them to happen the next day at a coffee cart that she's, guess, going to send Payson to, or that Payson goes to a lot. Who knows? So she immediately broke her promise to Kaylee. We then see Kaylee and Austin talking, and he's trying out some really cringe one-liner catchphrases for their commentator class. And Kaylee tells him about Kelly Parker and the routine and how it's simple, and he warns her that it might be sabotage because he then uses some example of some story that had happened with some other people and blah, blah, blah. And next day at practice, Lauren does the routine that Payson designed for her, and she loves it. She's like, I never thought to do this. How did you know this? And Payson's like, I mean, I've been watching you for like 10 years do gymnastics, and I mean, we've just never been paired together. So they have to stay for an extra hour of conditioning that day because I think Jordan did something. I don't know. She wasn't listening when the coach said something. And Lauren looks at the clock and then runs out and finds Rigo and tells him to tell Brad that his date has changed to 4 p.m. instead of 3 p.m. because they're going to be at the gym for an extra hour. And Rigo's like, sure, okay. So Kelly gives Kaylee a custom leotard that she had made for her, and it is like a matching one. They have matching leotards now to do for their routines. And Kaylee's like, how did you get my measurements? And Kelly's like, oh, I just looked in your bag. Girl, Kaylee looks so freaked out because, yeah, what happened last time she went in her bag? She stole her journal. Kelly has no boundaries. I think she just has never had a friend, and she doesn't really know how to act. So Payson is then in line for coffee at the coffee cart thing, and Rigo comes down on his bike down the steps doing some like crazy biker moves. I don't know, dude. And rides up and stops right in front of Payson and buys her coffee, and they hang out a bit and they're laughing and flirting and it's cutesy, whatever. And he gives her a ride on his bike. And then cue compilation, there's like music and whatever, and so they have like a cute little date day. And Lauren meets with Annie again and tells her that she hasn't had any more dizzy spells since she's been eating more and really taking care of her blood sugar or whatever. And then Lauren, Payson, and Kaylee have dinner together, and they talk about Payson's date thing. And Kaylee tells them about the matching leotards that Kelly got, and how it has 3/4 length sleeves, which she hates supposedly because she has very hairy forearms. And then that night it is time for Kaylee and Austin's class, and she tries to get out of it, but he tells her that he lost his Cobalt endorsement because they didn't hire a boyfriend guy, they hired a player, and now that he's dating her, they don't want him to endorse their sunglasses anymore. And so he needs kind of a fallback plan, so that's why he wants to try the commentating thing as an option. And they get up there to read off the teleprompter to do like a fake tape kind of thing, and Austin is just like so stiff and awkward. I like skipped this part because I've seen it before a couple times, so I'm like, I don't even need to watch this. I can't handle the embarrassment anymore. But he's like, and Kaylee, of course, she is charismatic and unnatural and kills it. And right after that, Austin just like leaves class because I guess he's embarrassed. And Kaylee's like, oh, So next day at practice, Kelly Parker cannot do the routine and Kaylee offers to help her, and she gets mad at her for lying about having the moves. And Kelly's like, well, I always come through in a pinch. I'll have it by tomorrow. And Kaylee's like, okay, girl. And we then see Lauren looking up her symptoms on WebMD, which is always a dangerous game to play, and she's kind of like freaking herself out. And then she helps Payson get ready for her date and does her makeup and her hair and whatnot. And then she slips up and asks about Brad, or says something about Brad. And Payson's like, the guy who hit on me at the mixer? And Lauren's like, didn't you say his name was Brad? And Payson puts two and two together and figures out that Lauren set the whole thing up, and they get into a fight and start throwing beauty products at each other. And at the end, Payson's got like blue goo on her face and powder everywhere, and she storms out and they have a yelling match. And she runs up to Rigo and confronts him and starts yelling at him, and he explains that he manipulated the situation to get a date with her, because since the first time he saw her at the bonfire last week, he was just knocked out and whatnot, and that he would do it again, even if it was just for yesterday's date. And he says all these sweet things to her, and Payson just like melts in her face, like, sorry, I'm being mean, but I don't know. This actress, she's a little hit or miss sometimes. It's just, I don't know, it's very... And also, I just don't really like Rigo. He's not my vibe. But anyways, Payson comes home from her date and tells Lauren to stop manipulating things in her life, and tells her thanks for however she made this happen, because Rigo is just perfect. And then they kind of gush about the date, whatever. And then the next day, it is time for them to do their routines, and Kaylee comes out in her room, and she's not wearing the leotard that Kelly bought her, and Kelly's face just kind of falls because she's like, great. And Coach says that he is cutting 2 more girls at the end of the day, so they better do the routines of their lives. Payson and Lauren kill their routines because, Payson's feeling better now because she had a good date. I don't know. This whole Max switch to Rigo situation was just so fast. I don't know, girl. Go off. I guess you hadn't seen Max in forever, so it's not that different. But anyways, Jordan decides to do the routine that Wendy had originally created for her, and they do theirs, and they do well. And then it's time for Kelly and Kaylee to do theirs, and Kelly immediately messes up on the first tumbling pass because it's a move that she couldn't do and landed like half the time is I think what she told Kaylee. And to make up for her teammates' bad routine, she adds a bunch of stuff into her simple routine to give it a higher difficulty score, I guess. And the coach calls them out for it, and he says, Kelly, like, you lied to Kaylee about your skill level, and Kaylee, you didn't trust your partner's routine when she did a simple routine that played to your strengths. And Payson and Lauren get second place. Some random people get first place. Jordan and Wendy got third. And Kaylee and Kelly got fifth. And then whoever was at the bottom got kicked out. It was just random people. And then Kaylee and Kelly kind of have a fight about it. And they should not have made their names so similar. They have a fight about it, and then they end up coming around and making up. And Kaylee apologizes for not wearing the leotard and says that she just because look at this. I just hate 3/4 sleeves, and shows, she has hairy arms. And Kelly's like, yeah, you don't want to get that stuck in spandex. So, they kind of laugh about it. But while they're like talking, Kaylee kind of looks over at Lauren and Payson laughing like longingly because she's clearly jealous that they were paired together and she's kind of getting left out of the trio. You know what I mean? And that is how episode 2 ends. Next, moving on to episode 3. Payson is doing an interview for some series that they're doing for Olympian. I don't know. And they ask her about being the comeback girl. And we see our old friend Marcus. He's back. And he is not... I don't like him in this season. I liked him in season 2. He's not my favorite in season 3. And he asks Coach Mac about coaching girls for the first time. Coach Mac is like, an athlete's an athlete. It's not that much different. Gender doesn't matter. And they're walking around the gym, and the girls, as they're walking through, all the girls like straighten up and kind of like look with fear at Coach Mac, and Marcus kind of picks up on this and sees that the girls are kind of scared of him. And they walk by Payson while she's doing her interview, and they hear her being asked about Sasha as a coach, and she goes on, gushes about him because she loves Sasha, about how, he's someone to look up to and he's inspiring, blah, blah, blah. And then they ask, and what about Coach Mac? And Payson's like, oh, I don't really know him that well yet. And Marcus kind of looks at him like, And then she gushes about Sasha some more. Like, girl, just go kiss him again. Which they then ask her about the kissing scandal. And they point out how humiliating it must have been for her. You're fired. What the hell? Why are we asking her about that? And she says, like, no comment or something. And it's just very awkward. And why are we... I've seen some bad interviewers lately, like, asking things of people. Like, that... And never mind, I'm not going to get into it. But, like, they have just no decorum anymore. So the girls are talking Payson down afterwards, talking about how embarrassing it was and hurtful. And it just brought back all these bad memories. And Kelly Parker comes over, and they all stop talking. And Kelly's like... okay, never mind, and walks away, and Kaylee goes over to help her spot her for something, I don't know. And Lauren's like, did Kaylee just diss us for KP? And then Coach Mac and Marcus are walking around again, and Mac is just like yelling at all of them, and Marcus is like, I think you and I need to talk. So later that night, Mac is talking to his wife and tells her that Marcus expressed his concern for his coaching style, and that he should be connecting with the girls more, and that they seemed a little skittish around him. And then they show the three girls and Kelly Parker. They're in like a room, like icing in an ice bath, and whatever, a recovery room kind of situation. And they're talking about how they're all sore and have blisters, and say it would all be worth it if they were actually getting better, and that they didn't think that Coach Mac knows what he's doing. And they also talk about how they think Jordan is the narc, and they try to decide what to do about Coach Mac. And Lauren's like, I could go to my dad, and they all simultaneously say no. And then, this is growth, guys. And then they say that they should just go to the NGO. And then Jordan comes in because she's like, Coach told me to ice. And the girls are like, I think Kelly's like, we'll be done in 10. And then you can go and ice by yourself. And as she's leaving, Lauren goes, by the way, Jordan, you're dead to us. And Jordan walks out, and Kaylee goes, harsh. Which, yeah, Lauren, what the hell? You can't just tell people they're dead to you for nothing. And then Rigo shows up and says hey to Payson before he has to go to practice. And they talk about how they have no time for each other and blah, blah, blah. And also, Payson's outfit, I made a note of this. Payson's outfit during this scene is awful. She's wearing like a purple tie-dye short-sleeved shirt with like a shiny black vest, puffer vest on top. Oh my God, girl. What are we doing? We then see Kaylee talking to Kelly later, and she tells Kelly, like, the reason that they stopped talking when she came over wasn't because of her, it was because of Payson, and that she was embarrassed of the situation and didn't want to talk about it more. And Kelly's like, well, I know someone who could figure it out, my mom. Like, why don't I call her and she can find out who sent the email to Ellen Beals of the kissing scandal, Kaylee's like, I don't know. It's probably best if we just leave it in the past. I don't think Payson wants to put any more attention towards it. Y'all, I'm having awful cramps right now. Holy shit. Ow, God. Hold on, need to sit for a second. Oof. I love being a woman. Where was I? And Kelly completely ignores this and calls her mom anyways, after Kaylee leaves. So Payson asks Lauren, how do you know when a boy is into you? Like, girl, has Rigo not made it clear? I feel like he's been very clear about that he likes you. Rigo shows up like right after that, and Lauren leaves, and he asks Payson out on a real date, and they try to find something in their packed schedules and decide that the only night they both have free soon is like the next night. or that night, I think. So, I don't know, something like that. So Jordan and Lauren have a little tiff, and Jordan mentions that all Kaylee's good for is deserting people. And Payson goes and talks to Marcus and tells him her concerns about Coach McIntyre, and he tells her that the NGO hears her. And then Kaylee changes her mind about the kissing video and tells Kelly to get her mom to look into it, and that they just are going to keep it between them for now, because they don't want to, distract Payson or like get her hopes up or, anything like that. So Lauren is getting a little bit suspicious about Kaylee and Kelly's friendship, I guess, after what Jordan said to her. And then she also gets dizzy on the beam and falls off and like passes out. And Payson runs over and is like, Lauren. And like a trainer comes over, and as soon as the trainer comes over, Lauren's like, what? Like gets up. She's like, I just slipped. My hands were sweaty. And Payson confronts her about it. Like, Lauren, you didn't slip. Like, I saw you fall. It was like you were out cold. And Lauren doesn't budge and is like, no, like I swear. And then Marcus gives Coach Mac 48 hours to fix the problem with the girls, and tells him that one of them came to him, but he doesn't tell him whom. So he calls a mandatory meeting at his house that night for the girls. And so Payson has to cancel her date with Rigo. And then Kelly's mom sends her a text. And, I guess I should put Kelly's mom up. I have a picture of her. Sheila Baboyan, man a momster. She sends her proof of the email that came from Lauren's email address to Ellen Beals of the kissing video, and she shows it to Kaylee, and Kaylee's like, I'm not going to tell her because this could destroy her since they're partners, and we just can't tell her right now. And Jordan's in the hall. They're at the coach's house at this point, by the way. Jordan's in the hall and hears it because she was like, oh, I'm just looking for the bathroom. And Coach Mac is just having the girls like eat dinner there, and he's going over training film, and he's just kind of critiquing everything about them in the like videos of the that he's playing on the TV for everyone to watch. And then he puts Remember the Titans on for them to watch because the men's team used to love it. It used to hype them up for competitions and whatnot. And he walks out to go do something, I don't know. And Lauren turns the TV off. Turn the TV off. They all start fighting and bickering, and Jordan starts attacking everyone, and she's like, tells Kaylee to share what she found out in the hallway, and brings up the kissing video, and Payson says that she wants to know, and she's like, if you've ever been my friend, you'll tell me what she's talking about right now. And they all go back and forth, and then Kelly finally says, it was Lauren. And they all turn to Lauren like, what? What do you mean? And Payson claims that she already knew and then walks out. And then we see Coach Mac talking to his wife, and she helps him see how his methods aren't working. And we see Lauren follow Payson out to talk to her, and she's like, did you really know? And Payson's like, no, I didn't know, but I wasn't going to let anyone else embarrass me about that damn video, so I lied. And Lauren says, it's possibly the worst thing that she's ever done, and says it had nothing to do with her. And Payson's like, how can you literally say that to me? And Lauren tells her how she was so desperate to make Summer her mom that she panicked, and she was so scared that she was going to leave her, just like how everyone else eventually does. And Payson's like, and why do you think people leave you, Lauren? Real. Also, I may know this, but Lauren's highlights, they're so yellow and they're so bad. Like, I'm not even one to comment on something like that, but holy cow, it's like distractingly bad. So Lauren apologizes to her and says that her saying earlier that they were friends, it meant so much to her because she finally felt like she was a better person, and begs her to give her a chance to prove it. And Payson says that she doesn't think she can do that. And so Lauren goes inside, and Kaylee confronts her and is like, how could you do that to Payson? And they get into a fight, and Lauren tells her that Jordan was right about her and that she uses people, and then throws them away. And she walks away, and Kelly comforts Kaylee. And then they all come back in the living room, and Coach comes back in and sees the movie's off, and he's like, am I missing something here? And he tells them the truth about why they're there that night, and he asks who it was that went behind his back to talk to Marcus. And Lauren takes the blame for Payson, and they kind of just all like say their piece, and Kelly tells him that all he does is bully them and tell them how horrible they are, and he asks if anyone else feels that way, and they all raise their hands, and everyone chimes in and says their part, of how they're feeling about the coaching. When someone says something about how they don't understand, basically that they don't understand his motives and that they need him to compliment them sometimes instead of just pointing out things that they do wrong. And Payson says it feels like he doesn't believe in them, and he's like, all I do is look at you guys, see your strength, and all I feel is belief. And he tells them kind of why he paired them. He says that Jordan needed some youthful joy and that Wendy needed some maturing, so that's why he paired them. He paired Lauren and Payson because he wanted to see how they were without Kaylee, and that he paired Kaylee and Kelly because I actually can't remember, and I didn't write it down. I think he saw that they had some trust issues, maybe, I think. And then Rigo shows up at the door, and he says that he needs to talk to Payson. And Payson looks shook, and the coach says, you have 1 minute or 5 minutes. So Payson goes outside to talk to Rigo, and he tells her that he's leaving tonight for a meet, and that he just couldn't stand the thought of leaving for a week before kissing her. And then, of course, he kisses her. And then he says, after he kisses her, he says, I'd really like to change my status on Social Lounge. If you're into it. I'm assuming it's kind of like a Facebook relationship status kind of thing. Like, what are we doing? And, like, that's how you're asking her out, telling her you want to change your status? Please. This is why I don't like Rigo. Yeah, he pretends like he puts in all this effort, but then he says shit like that. And I'm like, you're doing the bare minimum, my guy. And Payson doesn't know any better, so she's gonna love it. So Lauren and Payson are talking that night while they're, like, laying in bed, and Payson asks her why she took the blame for her, and they have, like, another emotional chat about everything, and Payson's like, there's still lies, though, because I know something's wrong with your health, and you're not telling me. So if you tell me right now, so if you really want to be my friend, you'll tell me the truth. And Lauren tells her that there is something wrong and that she's really scared, but she's even more scared that her dream will get ripped away because of whatever the health thing is. And they agree to keep quiet about it if Lauren will go to the doctor. And Lauren asks if this means that they're okay, and Payson says no, but we will be. The next day at practice, it is a completely different vibe. Coach is throwing out compliments left and right, and for the girls, and everyone's in a good mood and happy, and Marcus is there, and he is pleased. And that is how episode 3 ends. Next, moving on to episode 4. We're having an event for the girls to show their families some stuff, so they're all doing different routines from past famous gymnasts, and they're gonna perform them for their parents like the end of the week or whatever. And a coach asks Jordan why she was struggling that day and who she had coming to see her, and she says that the routine is just a little more artistic than she's used to, and that she invited some foster parents from Baltimore. And he was like, oh, when was the last time you saw them? She was like, oh, like 7 or 8 years ago. Girl, okay. Then Kaylee and Kelly are talking, and it's mentioned that Kelly fired her mom for being her manager, and that she's excited for her to come and just be her mom, to not do any business stuff that weekend, and that she hopes it can be like a whole new start for them. And she also says that she never sees her dad because of the divorce, and that he got remarried and had kids of his own, and that, he's focused on them and his new wife. And Payson schedules an appointment for Lauren at the TC doctor, and Lauren freaks out because she doesn't want them to know, like the training center to know that she's ill or whatever. So she promises that she will schedule an appointment, but it has to be with a doctor that's outside of the Olympic Training Center. And Kaylee and Austin talk, and she tells him that Payson hasn't talked to her since she found out about the kissing video, and she invites him to dinner with her and her parents when they're in town that weekend for parents weekend. Would hopefully force her parents to be on good behavior because, they still argue a lot because of the divorce. And Kelly's mom finally shows up in the flesh, and she talks to the coach, and she's being real fake, talking about how much she's missed Kelly, and says she won't be able to stay for the performance because there's no open rooms at any hotel. He feels forced to invite her to stay at his house, in his guest room, whatever, and tells Kelly that she promised to make him a home-cooked meal in, repayment. And Kelly's mad because she just wanted to be them two at dinner and not a business dinner. And her mom does her signature manipulation skill thing and tells Kelly that she's, her most precious thing, and she wants to get to know the guy who's, in charge of her dream and whatnot. And after Kelly leaves, her mom makes a phone call and calls her hotel and cancels her hotel room. So she obviously was lying about not having a room. We then find out Lauren made an appointment at an outside doctor, but she used a fake ID so that they wouldn't know who, she is. But they need to use Payson's dad's car to get there in time. So Mark is in town. Thank you, Mark. And then we see Mark and Ronnie talking, and they're being all suspicious, saying cryptic and things about how there's something big he needs to tell Payson, and also that Kim isn't there because she's chaperoning a rock trip. Sure. I think the actress just didn't want to come back. Then we see Jordan alone in the gym. She's the only one there practicing because she doesn't have family there, and Coach calls her out about lying about her foster family coming and invites her to come to his house for dinner that night because his wife's out of town and he doesn't think he can handle Kelly's mom on his own. We then see Lauren at her appointment, and they're running tests and things, and then they show her afterwards, and she's crying because she clearly got some bad news, but they don't tell us yet. But before she goes out to see, because Payson went with her, she dries her tears and finds a pamphlet, and that's in the office, and gives it to Payson and tells her that she just had a potassium deficiency, and that's the pamphlet she gave her, and that she just got prescribed some potassium supplements and she'll be fine. And Payson's oh, okay. And then Kaylee talks to Payson about why she hasn't forgiven her, and Payson says she expected more from her, and this whole part confused me because I don't understand why Payson's mad at Kaylee. I guess for not telling her, but she literally just found out that day, not even 10 minutes beforehand, and there wasn't a chance to tell her. And so I don't know why, she didn't even know that if Kaylee was ever gonna tell her. So I don't know why she expected Kaylee was just gonna keep it a secret forever. I don't know. I'm sure she would have eventually told her, but it's I don't know, it's very weird. Anyways, Kelly Parker comes out and makes a big deal about Austin going to dinner with her and her parents, and says that it's the next big step in any serious relationship. And Kaylee's nah, I don't see it like that, and neither does Austin. And Kelly's I bet he does. And then there's a knock on the door, and they open it, and it's Austin, and he's wearing a suit and carrying a huge bouquet of flowers, and that is for Kaylee's mom. And Kaylee's oh God. So then show Kelly and her mom at Coach's house, and her mom is preparing her homemade meal, which she's just unpackaging food she got from a restaurant, and it's fried chicken and sweet potato pie and fixins and things like that, and her mom makes a comment I'll have her spot locked in as team captain by the end of dinner. And Kelly's can't you just be my mom tonight? And her mom's I wouldn't be your mom if I didn't want the best for you or couldn't ensure my darling daughter's future. And then Coach Mac shows up, and Sheila holds up the chicken and goes, I hope you enjoy you some soul food. It's giving racism, queen. And he's I hope you don't mind. I hope it's enough for 4 people, and calls in Jordan. And Kelly starts laughing to herself because her mom's business dinner has now been ruined by Jordan being there. And Coach Matt goes, look, Jordan, soul food. And they just kind of look at Sheila awkwardly. And then it is the Cruz's dinner. Ronnie and Alex are kind of arguing, and before dinner, and Kaylee and Austin show up, and Austin starts trying really hard to bond with Alex, and he talks about his baseball career and brings up all these stats and things from it. And Alex is just like immediately putty in his hands. And then back at Coach's house, Sheila is just going on and on and on about Kelly and her leadership abilities, and she did this in the sandbox, and her teacher said this, and blah blah blah, and everyone is just like, cool, great. And she brings up a story about Kelly winning juniors 2008, and Kelly's like, Mom, that wasn't me. And her mom's like, yeah, it was. Who else would it be? And Jordan's like, it was me. And she was like, right. And it's so sad how you've struggled ever since. Girl, what? And Coach is like, I don't see her struggling in my gym. All I see is maturity and a natural born leader. Okay, Coach. Talk your shit. And back at the Cruz's dinner, Alex says they really need to start capitalizing on the golden couple thing, and says he can put Austin, if he's thinking about his career post-Olympics, he could use a partner at his sports marketing business, blah, blah. And Alex tells Austin that he can start calling him Alex instead of Mr. Cruz. So Alex is chuffed with that. And Kaylee looks a bit miffed, like she's like, what is happening at this dinner? And then Mark and Payson are having dinner that Payson cooked for him. And he tells her that the big thing that he wanted to tell her was that their family might be moving from Boulder back to Minnesota because he's got a good job opportunity, and Becca misses her friends, and Becca doesn't really think she's gonna be who's Payson's sister, if you don't know, an elite gymnast like Payson, so she's fine with moving back. And Payson's like, well, what about training at the Rock? I'm going to need to train there after trials and before the Olympics. And her dad says, well, I've already talked to Ronnie, and you can stay with your bestie Kaylee. And Payson storms off and goes and closes her room. And then after Cruz's dinner, Kaylee and Austin are talking, and she asks him why he did all that at dinner. And he tells her, you're right, I probably came on a little too strong, trying too hard, but I know how much your parents love you, and I want them to like me because I love you. And he goes in, so he told her he loves her, and he goes in for a kiss, and Kaylee kind of swerves him and goes in for the hug, and she does not say I love you back. And then we see Alex is walking Ronnie to her hotel room, and they kind of have a little bit of banter, and they end up making out in front of Ronnie's hotel room. Later, Kaylee is telling Kelly what happened at dinner, and how she said she didn't tell Austin that she loved him back, and that she thinks she loves him, but she just couldn't say it. And Kelly's like, well, what about when you told Carter you loved him? And Kaylee's like, I've never told Carter I loved him, and that she's never said it to anyone. And so back at Coach's house, it's just Mac and Sheila now, and Sheila asks to talk to him, and she tells him how handsome he is, and touches his face and tells him he has a face the camera would love, and he's like, oh, thank you. And she offers to get him hooked up with a sponsorship and fix all his money problems, and brings up his mortgage and his house in Texas and all this stuff information that she should not know about him. She says all he has to do is take Kelly to the Olympics as team captain, and she will get him all set up with a sponsorship. And the next morning, Payson walks into her and Lauren's room, and sees Lauren kneeled at the end of the bed praying. And she's like, what's wrong? And Lauren's like, oh, I just couldn't find my retainer or something. So Payson gets suspicious about what's wrong with her, because she's like, why would Lauren be praying? And calls the doctor and finds out and pretends to be Lauren, and finds out what's actually wrong with her. They don't say it yet. And then we see Ronnie and Alex in Ronnie's hotel room still. It's the next morning, and Alex is naked in bed, and Ronnie is getting dressed or whatever. So clearly they banged. Good for them. And they agree that what happened last night can't happen again, but that they should be better friends with each other and not fight as much. And there's a knock on the door, and Ronnie's like, oh, it's room service, and she opens the door, and it's Kaylee. And Kaylee looks in and sees her dad in the bed and is like, So her dad leaves, and then her and her mom talk about it, and she's like, so does this mean you're getting back together? And her mom's like, no, sweetie. But she thinks it helped them get to a better place, and she tells her that they're just not in love anymore. Kaylee's like, I don't understand this whole love thing, and she gets some advice from her mom, and they talk about love and whatnot. So we then see Jordan talking to Coach, and says, I don't know how you put up with that woman last night. And he's like, I did it for Kelly's sake. You know, Sheila's all she's got. And he tells Jordan that since Jordan doesn't have anyone there for her, that for today she should consider him her support. But after today, he goes back to being her hard ass coach because it's the day of their performances. And Payson confronts Lauren about her diagnosis. And we find out, finally, that it is an irregular heartbeat and that only a cardiologist will actually be able to tell her how serious it is and how, much it's going to affect her life and things like that. She tries to talk her out of performing because she doesn't want her to fall and land on her head and, hurt herself. And Lauren tells her to butt out. And the whole performance today is so pretty. They have the, clip of the gymnast from history doing it, and then it slowly morphs into the girl doing it in modern day. And the music is really nice. It's great. And they have Coach doing a voiceover, kind of talking through the history of it and everything. And Lauren completes her routine without dying, and all the girls do great. And the parents are super happy, of course. And Austin shows up after the performance, and Kaylee goes over to talk to him, and because I think she called him and asked him to be there. And he's like, what did you want to talk about? And I think he's scared that she's going to dump him. And she tells him that she loves him. And he is so happy and picks her up and hugs her. And it's really cute. And then Kelly talks to her mom and asks if they could go to lunch. And her mom's like, no, I have to talk to Coach Mac about business. And then I should really get back on the road. And Kelly's like, oh, I thought we could, have some quality time. And she's very clearly upset, and she's like, fine, it's fine. I should really be over with the other girls without mothers anyways, and because Jordan and Lauren are over there sitting on a couch, because I think Lauren's dad, he could only come the day before. He wasn't there for the actual performance, so kind of sitting there, and she's like, well, I guess I should go over with them anyways. And then Coach Mac pulls Sheila aside and basically tells her to fuck off, and that no one will ever buy a place onto his Olympic team, and that most coaches would have sent Kelly packing if they had tried to bribe them, and but he's not going to penalize Kelly for her mother's mistakes, and that he thinks she's suffered enough having her as a mother. That was ice cold, Coach. Thank you. And then Payson tells her dad that she is okay with them moving to Minnesota, but asks if it's okay if she stays with Lauren instead of Kaylee, because, they've really grown close and whatnot, and that Lauren really needs her right now and whatnot because of the heart thing, and yeah, anyways. And then I saw episode 4 ends. Now moving on to episode 5. So episode 5 starts with a new NGO lady, who I did not print out because she's just not really important. But she's there to judge the ladies for their elimination round. That's at the halfway mark through the training. And there's going to be 2 days of elimination rounds. And some girls will go first day and some girls will go the second day. They might only be asked to do one apparatus, or they might be asked to do all 4. And so the girls, they're really nervous, obviously. And Payson asks, and then they also have a stricter curfew to get ready. And Payson asks Lauren to help her sneak out to go see Rigo after curfew. And Jordan and Wendy kind of see them leaving. So obviously, if Coach finds out, one of them is the narc. And Coach Mac and the NGO lady are talking about the girls, and he gets a text about one of his girls being out after curfew from an unknown number. So, yeah. But Payson is out, and her and Rigo have a cute date, stargazing, and or something. I don't know, dude. Rigo, he's fine. He's so cringe too. Like, I don't know. I cannot take him seriously. But Payson comes back to her room, and Coach is there, and he tells them that since they feel like they can go out after curfew, that they will be performing the first day instead of the second day because they clearly don't need the extra practice. And Kelly's mom is back in town because she has some other people there that she's representing, some other athletes, I don't know, whatever. And she's talking to the NGO lady, and Kelly's like, what the hell are you doing here? And Wendy comes and says hey to her and to Sheila. And Sheila says that Wendy's been hounding her to represent her. And Kelly's like, well, you're not, are you? And because you representing my competition would be really weird. And her mom's like, you thinking that Kaylee Cruz isn't your competition is even weirder. But she says that she's not going to be representing Wendy. And Kelly walks away, and Sheila goes up to Jordan and says, oh, I figured it out. You must be related to Coach McIntyre. And Jordan's like, no, why would you think that? They kind of go back and forth, like, Sheila's like, and Jordan's like, and clearly she's trying to say because you're black and Coach is black. And that is why I thought you were related, because you have similar skin tones. And it's just like, oh. But she's like, I don't know why else you would be here. Girl, because she's skilled. Anyways, Mac and NGO lady are talking about how they're going to beat China and that they need a super move because one of China's girls has a new super move. And she mentions Jordan, talking about her layout Jordan move, and how she wants her to take it out of retirement, and that Jordan might be too headstrong for this sport, and because she's refused to do the move for years. And Coach Mac tells her that she's close to landing a triple back dismount on bars, and NGO lady is like, Jordan Randall is your big hope for beating China? And as if she didn't literally just say that the layout Jordan is the move they needed. Like, this makes no sense to me. And she also mentions that they'd already taken a chance on an unfocused, obstinate gymnast in Boulder, and that it backfired. Shout out Emily. And then Lauren accuses Jordan of being the mole, and that all it's doing is making them hate her. And Jordan says, I'm not here to make friends. And the girls basically take that as her confirming that she's the mole. And Kaylee walks into her dorm later and closes the door, and to find Kelly's mom standing behind the door reading her journal, like flipping through it and like spraying her perfume, and it's just very creepy. And she says, sorry, and Sheila's like, sorry, I just remembered Kelly asking me to meet her in the quad. I get so forgetful when I'm lightheaded and hungry. I know you know how that feels. Girl. And then she tries to like show fake concern for Kaylee and her eating disorder and her fragile mental state, and Kaylee's like, I'm on to your game, Sheila. And she's like, I'm just trying to show motherly concern. And Kaylee's like, well, I have a wonderful mother, unlike Kelly. And Sheila calls her a freaky little toothpick and tells her that Kelly is going to bury her bony ass. And Kaylee says, God, you don't know your daughter at all, but I do, because she's my dear friend, and I love that screws with your fragile mental state, basically throwing her words back at her. And before Sheila leaves, she throws like a dessert onto the bed and says, and for God's sakes, Kaylee, would you eat something? Girl, what? And Payson is still on Lauren about seeing a cardiologist. Coach talks to Jordan about her layout Jordan trick, and she gets really defensive, and he says, well, if you don't do it, you need to stick your triple back consistently. And Payson talks to Rigo about Lauren's issue and gets advice and about what to do. And he asks her if she's really going to take Lauren's dream away from her, and Payson gets mad and is like, I can't believe you're telling me to do nothing. And he's like, you asked me for my opinion, and I gave it to you. I don't know what else you want me to say. And she's like, I expected you to tell me to do the right thing. And he's like, no, you want me to tell you what you want to hear. Which, yeah, true. Like, why'd you ask him if you already knew what you thought the right thing would be? I don't get this. This is a stupid, pointless fight to me. Anyway, she says, don't worry. Next time I need someone to count on, I won't come to you, and leaves. And then the first day of eliminations start. Lauren and Payson are up, and they only want to see Payson's beam. So she gets up and does it. And Payson notices that Lauren is doing this thing with her hands that she does before her like fainting attacks happen, because she like loses feeling in her fingers. And she like has a vision of Lauren getting up there and falling and like cracking her skull open. And so she comes back to real time and like stops her before she does her routine. And so she makes her tell them about her heart thing. Lauren's in the office talking to coach and the nutritionist and NGO people, and she leaves the office crying, and Lauren ignores Payson when she tries to talk to her, and NGO lady says to her colleague, Tanner's done. Payson talks to Kaylee about it, and they have like a rekindling moment. Then Kelly tells her mom about Lauren, and her mom's like, girl, this is a good thing. And Kelly's like, how can you say my friend having a heart condition is a good thing? And her mom leaves, and then Wendy shows up at Kelly's door with some paperwork that she wants Kelly to give to her mom. That is a signed contract for her mom to represent her. And she's like, I'm a younger, newer you. And then day 2 of eliminations start, and Jordan does her triple back dismount, and she stumbles a little bit on the landing. So the NGO lady steps up and is like, we'd love to see her lay out Jordan on the vault. And she refuses to do it and walks out, and the lady says, it's Emily Kometko all over again. Emily mentioned, woo. And Kelly cries to Kaylee about her mom and says that her Olympic dream has always been, the goal has always been to win Olympic gold and then get away from her mom, and that she thinks she needs to do that. And Kaylee's like, you don't need to do that to get away from mom, just get away from her, cut her off. And so they do their routines, and Kelly's landings, they kind of show like a compilation, and Kelly's landings are all over the place and kind of rough. And they show the elimination meeting between the NGO and the coach, and they mention how Jordan is consistently getting better, but NGO lady is skeptical and says that they need consistently strong girls like Kelly Parker. And Max says he's been tracking Kelly's performance since Worlds 2 years ago, and she just hasn't been progressing like the other girls. And he says they only really need one workhorse, and they have that in Payson Keeler. And then they show Rigo and Payson making up, and he says she did what she thought was right and that Lauren put her in a tough place. And then the elimination list goes up, and Payson and Kaylee make it through, and Kelly Parker did not. Rip Kelly. Kaylee's like, I can't believe this, and Kelly's like, I can. I peaked at Worlds 2 years ago, and I have tried to fight my way back ever since, but I just couldn't keep up, and the judges saw that, which is true. She was making all this big fuss in season 1 and season 2, but she never really won a lot, so, you know. But her mom comes in throwing up a fuss and says the only reason Jordan made it through is because the black coach wanted to keep the only black gymnast on the team. And the girls are like, Kelly's like, Mom. So just some casual racism. Thank you, Sheila, for that. And Kelly says that she's quitting the sport and that there's nothing her mom can do to stop her, and that she can now focus on her new gymnast, Wendy. And Wendy overhears and comes up to them, and Sheila says, oh, I was just using her to get information on these girls to send to the coach. And then they realize that Wendy was the mole all along, sending tips to Sheila. And Wendy's like, I was just talking. You know how I blabber on. I had no idea she would use the information to hurt you. And her voice is all wobbly, and she's like pretending she's about to cry. And it's like, okay. So Kelly fires her mother, and her mom's like, you already fired me. She's like, no, I'm firing you as my mother. And the girls walk away, and Sheila turns around, and Wendy has like, is like smirking, and it's like her personality did a complete 180. And she gets all vindictive and says that she used Sheila as her own personal snitch. And Sheila's like, I'll get you back for that. And she's like, who's gonna believe you over me? I mean, and she says, but I mean, I'm taking the Rock Girls down, which is what you've always wanted anyways, so you're welcome. And then Kelly is packing up to leave, and she says goodbye to Kaylee and says she's kind of at peace with this and is excited to see what's out there for her, and that she called her dad and she's going to go stay with him and his family for a while, And his wife even got on the phone and said that there's always been a room there for her. And Jordan packs up to leave because she thinks she's been kicked off the team because she walked out. And a coach catches her before she leaves and is like, I just want to understand why you won't do it. And she's like, I just can't talk about it. Like talking about the layout Jordan move. And he's like, did you even look at the list? And she's like, I know what it's going to say. And he says she's got to get over this chip on her shoulder. It is not helping you. And he tells her that she actually made it. And it was a unanimous vote. And she gets all excited. And then Kaylee and Payson go to the hospital to visit Lauren. And she's very depressed and yells at Payson and accuses her of doing this because she messed up her double illusion on the beam, and she wanted to sabotage her from showing her up on her beam routine, and yells at her to get out. And so Payson leaves, and Kaylee's like, she only did it because she loves you. She says, I would have done the same thing, and she leaves too. And Payson goes out and cries to Rigo, and that is how season 5 ends. Moving on to season 6. Episode 6 opens with Wendy, and she's like giving Kaylee the stank face, and Payson mentions feeling icky about judging Jordan and thinking she's the mole when really it was Wendy, and her and Kaylee decide to apologize to her for misjudging her, but Jordan is not very receptive to this because they have been kind of bitches to her. Lauren told her she is dead to them. So anyways, Payson calls Kaylee out for holding on to a grudge from when they were 12, and she says that they will never be friends. And Lauren is still in the hospital, and they tell her that the best possible thing for her is open heart surgery, and her dad and Coach Mack are there too. Lauren asks how soon she can get back to training, and the doctor tells her that she'll need several months of rest before she can be ready to even do normal activities, so she will not be able to go back to training for the Olympics. And Lauren obviously does not respond well to this and starts crying. And Wendy is trying to plant strife with Jordan about Kaylee, and is planting seeds in her brain of things about Kaylee. And then Jordan leaves the room, and Wendy makes the fire alarm go off, and so the sprinklers come on in their rooms as a ploy to have to move rooms so that Jordan will have to move in with Kaylee and hopefully distract her, or I don't know what she wants to happen. Austin and Kaylee are talking about his eliminations are in a couple of days, and that a rep from Puma called him, so things are looking up. And Wendy's plan works, and Coach Mack has Jordan move in with Kaylee, and Wendy move in with Payson. And Payson apologizes to Steve for, ruining Lauren's dream. And Steve's like, thank you. You saved my daughter's life. And Payson's like, there has to be another way. And Steve tells her that there is a experimental surgery that this doctor does, but he already tried to get in contact with him, and he does not. And Lauren is not a candidate because he does not do his surgery on athletes because of the additional stress that being a professional athlete puts on the heart. And Steve brings Summer, our girl Summer, to visit Lauren because she's so depressed and thinks that Summer will cheer her up. She's been living in Florida, and Summer's like, I know something that can help. And Lauren's like, I do not feel like praying. So Kaylee and Payson try to find information on this Dr. Walker because Payson thinks she can convince him to give Lauren treatment. She's like, I know I can convince him. So they find out that he's on a meditation retreat. He goes every year or something. And it allows no types of communications. And the retreat is 3 hours away. So Payson decides that she has to go there to convince him. And then Coach Mack is talking to Jordan, and he tells her that individually she's outstanding, but that she needs to work on being part of a team and her social skills. And that he put her with Kaylee because he can sense some major tension there, and that it's time to work it out and join the pack. And then we find out Austin pulled a muscle in his shoulder because he slipped off the rings doing a hard move, and he decides that he might need to adjust his floor routine to save his shoulder for his eliminations so that he can do the special move on the rings because it's pure Tucker Flash. And being the oldest guy on the team means he's got to show off and show that he can hang with the younger guys, I guess. And Kaylee says she'll help him tweak the routine if he comes by the women's gym later that night. And Payson and Rigo are going on a road trip to the retreat, and they are going on Rigo's motorcycle. And then Jordan and Kaylee decide to get into their issues and kind of put everything out there and so they can move on. Basically, Kaylee blames Jordan for Coach Keegan treating her like his favorite and leaving her in the dust. And Jordan said that Kaylee ran home to Boulder after one argument and her dad built her a gym and bought her a coach and she forgot all about her. And Jordan says that Kaylee never even congratulated her for junior nationals. And Kaylee's like, well, I didn't know you wanted to me. And Jordan's like, well, I did. And then they have a little realization moment that they both thought different things about each other. And they talk about trusting each other. And Kaylee says she really needs someone to trust right now and tells her about Payson leaving and that she needs her help covering her so Wendy doesn't find out about it. So when Wendy gets home, they tell her not to go into her room because Payson is super sick. And so they send Wendy back out, and Jordan volunteers to sleep in Payson's bed that night and stay under the blankets so that Wendy thinks that she is Payson. Back at the hospital, Summer is still pushing God onto Lauren, and Lauren's like, I'm not in the mood for this right now. And Lauren's like, I am done asking God for stuff. He has not let me have anything ever I've ever asked for. My mom, you, my Olympic dream. And Summer's like, that's not how it works, Lauren. And Lauren's like, I am tired of talking to a God who never answers. And Summer says, well, no is an answer too. Summer, I don't think it's the time. I don't think that was a good time. Also, Lauren, in this first couple hospital days, she is looking rough. They did some makeup and she is just looking rough. Kaylee helps Austin with his floor routine, and they decide to switch one of his tricks to that's a 2.5 to a 1.5, so it's easier on his shoulders, so he'll be able to do his move on the rings. And as a little extra boost, she gives him a framed journal page from the day that she told him she loved him, and it's really sweet and whatnot. So then they show Payson and Rigo, and they're camping in a tent that night so they can go talk to the doctor the next day. Which, okay, y'all, this did not need to be an overnight excursion. They literally 3 hours. They could have gotten up super early that morning and gone. No, it did not need to be all this. And Rigo offers to zip their sleeping bags together for warmth, and Payson's like, so I'm actually a virgin. And Rico's like, that's cool. I think it's cool you take sex so seriously. And so they end up sharing sleeping bag. Nothing happens, but they wake up the next day cuddling. Jordan is in Payson's bed back at the TC, and Wendy's talking to her, but she definitely knows that it's Jordan because she's talking shit about Jordan to Payson, and she's making mean comments about her, about being Coach Mac's charity case, and she's definitely gonna flame out. Summer and Steve talk about how dark of a place Lauren is in, and that she thinks God turned her back on her. And Summer tells Steve that he needs to tell Lauren that things are going to be okay because he and her have been a team all their lives, and he shared her Olympic dream, and if he says it's going to be okay, then it can be okay for Lauren. So Austin tells Kaylee that he nailed his floor routine and that they didn't even ask to see his rings, and Kaylee's like, well, why should they? They know you're king of the rings. He says that the Puma rep called him and said they had their eye on a Tucker Cruise golden couple situation, but he turned them down because he doesn't want to mix business with pleasure, and because Kaylee doesn't love the whole golden couple thing. We then see wrestler Jake visiting Lauren at the hospital, and he brought her Otis so that she could rub his head for luck, and their banter is really cute. We then see Payson and Rigo finally show up at the meditation retreat, and they are promptly turned away at the door because there's no visitors allowed. There's no talking allowed inside the retreat. And they're like, what? And they're being really rude to this worker. He's literally just doing his job. It's we just need 1 minute. Guys, leave. What do you... No. So they go around, and Payson gets Rigo to give her a boost up over the wall, the stone wall that is surrounding this meditation retreat, so that she can get inside. And she somehow gets in. and is like looking around the complex. And then Steve talks to Lauren and tells her nothing is going to change how proud he is of her, and that she doesn't need an Olympic medal to earn his love and respect, and they have a cute, sweet father-daughter moment. So Payson somehow finds the correct yurt that Dr. Walker's staying in, and she gives her spiel and disturbs the out of his peace. And of course, he refuses her and tells her that she has no idea what she's talking about because she doesn't. She's not a doctor. Also, can I just say, the way that they recycled this medical issue plot from Payson's, like, they literally, the being hurt thing, and then having, like, a special experimental surgery that only one doctor can do to save the day. This is lazy writing. Come on, y'all. The same thing happened with Payson. So anyways, she gives one last statement about how she thought he was an amazing man, but that she thought he would be braver than this, and that she has more faith in him than he has in himself, and a worker comes in and kicks her out. So Lauren finally prays and asks God to help her find a way to accept this. And Summer walks in and prays with her, and the sun shines through the clouds at that exact moment. And of course, Payson tells Kaylee that she's in love with Rigo, and because he was such a gentleman that night. And mind you, she's known this man like 2 weeks. Okay, Payson. And Steve shows up at the dorm to tell Payson that Lauren wants to see her. And so Kaylee goes to meet Austin outside of the gym so that she can congratulate him on making it through eliminations. And he comes out with an awful look on his face and says that he actually got cut and that he took her advice on the routine, and he came off looking old and pathetic by doing a not as good move. And basically he blames her and says that all she's done is drag him down ever since he fell for her, and that he had his life together before her, and endorsements, and now nobody wants anything to do with him unless he can get them an interview with her. And he says he has no interest in being Mr. Kaylee Cruz, and he walks away. And he's very harsh and cruel, and I hate him in this moment, honestly. Like, I get that you're shocked and hurt because your dream has been ripped away from you. But also, he's been to the Olympics before. But it's just, yeah, you have a lot of intense emotions, but you don't be cruel to the people who love you and that you love. It just, I don't know. And then later that night, Wendy tells Jordan that she saw the whole fight between Kaylee and Austin. And she goes on, and Jordan finally gets fed up and goes off on her and tells her that she better stop talking smack behind people's backs, because pretty soon it's going to be around that she trashes everyone behind their backs and no one's going to trust her, that they're all going to go to London as a team, and tells her to grow up already. Thank you, Jordan. Someone finally said it. Payson visits Lauren, and Lauren apologizes for taking her anger out on her, and they make up. And of course, who walks in at that exact moment except for Dr. Walker? And he says he's going to give the surgery a try, and that it's all thanks to Payson, and that the retreat has a mantra that says, "In silence, the universe answers, and in our hearts, we find the bravery to go where it's calling us to go," and that Payson was a child of the universe telling him where to go, and he just had to find the courage to listen. And Kaylee goes to Austin's room that night to with a cupcake to, I guess, try to make up, and she goes in his room and it's empty. Everything's gone and Austin's not there, except for a box on the bed that's full of stuff that is supposed to be returned. It has like a note on it, like "Return to Kaylee Cruz in room whatever." Included in the box is the framed page from her journal that she had just given him. So she starts sobbing on his bed. And then Payson and Rigo bang in the tent in Rigo's dorm room. And that is how episode 6 ends. Moving on to episode 7. Just going to give you guys a quick trigger warning for episode 7 and episode 8 for talks of sexual abuse. So if that is something you can't handle today, feel free to skip to the end of the video. So the doctor is meeting with Lauren and her dad and Payson, talking about their plan for her procedure. It's basically they're gonna put a catheter in her heart. I don't know. And he says most of his patients are back to their regular lives within a couple of days. So they're all, got a good outlook on, getting back to training and stuff like that. Kaylee and Jordan are, they're friends now. So they are walking back from the food hall and they run into their old coach, Ray Keegan, who I could not find a good picture of. So instead, I printed out a picture of a garbage can. Yeah. So that's Ray Keegan. Anyways, he is the coach of the rhythmic gymnastics camp that they met at and that they used to go to. And Coach Mac shows up too and says that Coach Ray is going to be working with them. And you can immediately see that Jordan's being like a little bit weird about it. Then Jake is visiting Lauren again in the hospital, and there's like some heavy flirting. And then Kaylee and Payson show up, and they give her some grief about him being there. And she's like, that man is not Lauren Tanner approved. And Payson tells them that her and Rigo made love in a tent in his dorm room. And Kaylee, she looks all sad and stuff because her and Austin broke up. Dr. Walker comes in and he talks to Lauren again, and he gives her a little bit of a reality check after the girls leave because it's not a miracle cure. They have no idea how her heart's going to react because he's never done this procedure on an athlete. She's an entirely new type of patient, and he tells her there's a very real chance that she won't be ready in time for the Olympics or trials or something. I don't know. And then we see Wendy bringing her pee sample to Annie for drug testing, and Wendy asks her what to go over the banned substances list with her because she thinks she's getting a cold and she doesn't want to take any medicine that has something bad in it. And she tells her to stay away from drugs that have pseudoephedrine in it because that would be automatic elimination. Then at practice, Coach Mac introduces Coach Ray. And he says that he's going to help them choreograph their routines for the upcoming trials. And Jordan does not look happy about this. And the other no-name gymnasts are kind of like whispering and like looking at Kaylee and laughing because they're, gossiping about her and Austin and their very public fight. And Jordan notices and she tells them to fuck off, basically. I would want Jordan in my corner. She's actually a really good friend. And Coach Ray is helping Wendy, and she asks him who he thinks her biggest competition is, and he kind of like isn't. He's like, I don't think I should say that, and she kind of like manipulates it to seem like she wants to know who, so she can look up to them and things like that. And so he tells her probably Kaylee Cruz would be her best bet. Coach Mac tells Jordan that it's her turn to work with Coach Keegan, but she gets out of it by saying she has an appointment with the physical therapist, so she doesn't have enough time. And then Coach Keegan tries to talk to Mac about Jordan, and she like kind of plants seeds in his head about her being jealous of other girls and tells her to like watch her reaction when he starts investing time into the other girls. And Ray tells Coach Mac that he'll help Jordan to do the layout Jordan. Lauren has her procedure, and Kaylee and Payson show up just in time to, tell her they love her and good luck before she goes back and into the operating room, and they wait for her with Steve. And the doctor comes out and tells them that everything went smoothly and that he did some sort of test, and that her heart was still doing some kind of irregular rhythm, but that he wants her to come in daily to a stress test so that they can see if that is just her new heartbeat. And he says that he's seen this in non-athletic patients and that it's nothing to be concerned about. We then see Wendy online ordering cold medicine that does have pseudoephedrine in it, which is the banned substance, which I don't even think you can order that online. I think you usually have to show your ID when you buy like cold medicine like that in store. I don't know. But anyways, we then see Coach Ray talking to Payson about her routine, and he tells her that her Swan Lake is beautiful and it gets better every time, and it's consistent, and that's what Coach Mac and the NGA want from her as their leadoff position. And Payson is like, I have never been a leadoff position. I've always been the person sent out last to take home the win. And Coach Mack comes over, and Payson questions him and about this, and he says yes, if she went to the Olympics, she would be the girl sent out to get the competition ball rolling. And she freaks, and she tells him that she has what it takes to be in the anchor position. And like, girl, you don't even have a spot on the team yet. I don't think you have room to be getting picky about it. Like, please. And he tells her that she has been giving good, consistent scores, just not anchor level scores. And Payson rants to Kaylee about this later. And Kaylee's like, look at the positive. He basically said you have a spot on the Olympic team. And Payson says, you and I both know the leadoff position doesn't win an individual medal. And Kaylee's like, we've always talked about getting there together, but we all can't stand at the top of the platform together. And Lauren shows up at the gym, and Coach Mack calls her into his office, and he tells her that she can't do any strenuous exercise until her doctor okays it, and he tells her that he can't have her in the gym until then. And she's like, well, then how am I going to be ready for trials? And he's like, well, you aren't. And she kind of breaks down again. And then Payson confides into Rigo about how her coach can't see that she's not, the safe option. And they have a little moment that low-key makes me sick to my stomach. Because Rigo, I don't know. One of the things he says, it's like, in theory, it should be cute and romantic, but in practice, I don't know. It makes me, ooh. Anyways. Kaylee is journaling, and she crashes out and tears up the journal page that she gave to Austin, and tears the poster that she has of him on her wall and rips it up and starts sobbing on her bed. And she's in her room, and Wendy is out in the kitchen area making a smoothie, and she opens up a little pink lip gloss container, and it's filled with white powder, and she pours some of it into the smoothie and then mixes it up. She gives a glass of the smoothie to Kaylee when she comes out of her room, because she said she heard her crying. She thought she could use a little TLC, and Kaylee's being super nice to her, but Wendy still says, drink up. And then Payson, Kaylee, and Lauren are doing some Tai Chi kind of thing, I think is what it's called. That's being led by Jake, because they want to help Lauren kind of find her calm, find her zen, so that she passes these stress tests that the doctor's going to have her have, so she'll be ready for training sooner. And she has a test where she's on a treadmill, and she's hooked up to this sensor thing, and Dr. Walker has her stop before she has too many consecutive, she'll be walking, and it'll beep when she has a spike of an irregular heartbeat. And he says that that she's getting stronger every day, but he has her stop before she has too many consecutive spikes. And Payson is there, and she gives him the idea of tracking her spikes while she's doing gymnastics stuff, so that if with some kind of wireless device that she can actually move with, so that she can actually train and still do it safely. Then we see Rigo and Payson have a little date night, dancing under the stars, and he helps her feel better, and he also tells her that he loves her. And then they're dancing, and they do a salsa song, a Latin song comes on, they do a salsa dancing, I think, maybe some sort of Latin dance. And Rigo tells her to put some of those moves into her routine, and that'll really prove them wrong that she's not the safe option. And Dr. Walker does indeed get a wireless device and has her test it at the gym with the coaches, and tells them that if she has 5 spikes on the detector, then she is at risk of experiencing the symptoms of, the dizzy symptoms. And that if she gets to that point, then he will stop her before then, so there's no risk of her falling and hurting herself. And Annie volunteers to monitor the heart detecting machine while Dr. Walker, he can't be there all the time for training. So she's going to be the one who is in charge of telling Lauren to stop if she gets too close to the 5 spikes. So she gets up and does a beam routine, and she gets 4 spikes before it's over, and he tells her that she did great, and that in another 2 days she should be good to come back to training. Jordan seems concerned with how much attention Coach Ray is giving Wendy, and Lauren is struggling with this new fear that she has being up on the beam because, now she's scared that she's going to fall and hurt herself. Payson tells her she just has to push through this mental block because, physically she can do the moves, obviously, but it's just, this mental thing that's happening to her. Jordan is in the, physical therapy room kind of thing, getting her, shoulder with the shoulder thing on. And Coach Ray comes in and says that he understands that Jordan is mad at him because she's hurt by him working with the other girls and she's jealous of it, and he says that he just couldn't be her private coach anymore. It just wasn't fair, and it's giving major manipulation vibes, and he's talking about how he's taking credit for her successes and looks like I did pretty good. I mean, look where you are, and he's like, I never abandoned you, and blah, blah, blah. And he leaves, and Jordan gets pissed and flips over, the table thing that she was sitting on. And then they show Jake helping Lauren try to get over her mental block, and he's, walking through, verbally, he has her, close her eyes and, envision her beam routine so she can connect with, the beam again. And he's, verbally walking her through the moves in, a sort of meditative way. And she gets through the routine in her head flawlessly, and she's very impressed that he knows her routine move by move. And he says, well, when you admire someone, you want to know everything about them. They're in the gym at this point, by the way. And Payson shows up, and Lauren helps her change up her routine, make it a little more spicy with the salsa moves and things like that. And then Kaylee notices that Jordan is down and tries to talk to her about it, and they're in the living room of their dorm thing, and Wendy comes in and she tells them that she was with, and they're like, where were you so late? And she's like, I was with Coach Ray, and we got a bite to eat, and we watched training videos at his place. And Jordan is like, what the f- are you doing? And Wendy says, geez, calm down, no need to be jealous, he said you might be mad about this. And Jordan storms out and Kaylee follows her, and Jordan goes to the front desk, I guess, of the building, and she asks the lady which room Coach Keegan is in, but they won't tell her, so she storms outside. Jordan's like, leave me alone, and Kaylee's like, I'm not gonna let you throw away your career over some stupid jealousy. And Jordan's like, you think I'm jealous? And Kaylee says, I'm sorry, but you've always been a little possessive. Kaylee, honey, how would you say that right now? And Jordan tells her to leave her alone, and she storms over and picks up a metal pipe that's on the ground for some reason, and starts smashing Coach Ray's car. She hits all the the headlights and the taillights, and then she smashes a window, and she starts sobbing, and Kaylee tries to talk her down, and Jordan says, I can't let him touch Wendy the way he touched me. And Kaylee's like, well, what do you mean? And Jordan admits that Coach Ray molested her for years and convinced her that it was her fault, and that all the times that she didn't include her at camp, it was to protect her. And Kaylee starts crying too and says she didn't know. And Jordan tells her Coach Ray said that she wouldn't be any good without him, and if she told anyone, he would find a way to ban her from gymnastics, and that gymnastics was all she had, so that she wouldn't exist without it. And Kaylee tells her that she's a survivor, and my note says, why is the screen getting blurry? And Kaylee tells her it's not too late to tell someone, and that she will stand by her. And Jordan says it'll be her word against his, and she can't tell anyone. And then they hear police sirens coming because obviously someone heard this or saw the smashing of the cars, and so they are we need to get out of here, and the episode ends there. So episode 8, the final episode of season 3, and the show in general begins. I feel so much happens in this last episode, so let's get into it. So the next morning, Kaylee is storming down the sidewalk because she wants to go tell Coach Mac about Coach Ray, because she doesn't want, obviously she wants to help Jordan, but she also doesn't want Coach Ray to be around the girls anymore, because that's a danger. And Payson tries to stop her, and Payson, girl, she's losing me here. 'Cause she's like, well, maybe she's lying or confused, and you're really gonna ruin a man's career, huh? When do we defend men, huh? Over when do we believe men over women? Excuse me. Like, what would Jordan's reason be for doing that, anyways? Like, she's literally almost at the finish line. What did she like? How would this would only harm her, letting people know this? I mean, not harm her, but like add more drama where she doesn't need it. You know what I mean? Kaylee tells her off basically and is like, you didn't see her pacing. Was not lying. And then Kaylee starts choking up while she's talking about it, and she's like, I'm not gonna let him do this to anyone else. And it ends now. And Payson finally is like, agrees, and is like, yes, it ends now. So they go and tell Coach Mac together, and he's like, this is a very serious accusation, and asks them if Jordan will confirm. And Kaylee's like, she didn't want to talk about it this morning, but I know she will confirm it. But she does not seem too sure. And so he thanks them for telling him and says that they did the right thing and that Coach Ray will never hurt anyone again. And then Wendy is back in the kitchen making another smoothie, and she pours the white powder in it again. And Lauren walks into the room and asks her what she's making, and Wendy's like holding the lip gloss container, so she like pretends to put lip gloss on because she's holding the container and doesn't want. Anyways, so Wendy's like, I'm making a smoothie for Kaylee, and Lauren tries to grab the cup to take a sip, and Wendy grabs it really fast and is like, no, only made enough for Kaylee. Like, girl, be a little less obvious. So Kaylee comes in and Wendy gives her the smoothie, and Kaylee drinks it and it's like, oh, thank you, Wendy. And then Coach Mac brings Jordan into his office and tells her that he's already spoken to the police and that she's just going to have to answer a few of their questions before they can file formal charges, and that he'll be with her the entire time, and that she will not have to see Coach Ray. Jordan freaks and says that the only thing Kaylee worried about is Jordan beating her at trials, and that what she said never happened, and she leaves his office. Kaylee talks to Coach Mac again, and she tells him that Jordan is lying, and he says that she has a history of self-destructing, and that maybe this is that, and Kaylee's like, that's bull, this is her reaction to Coach Keegan, and maybe he's the reason she has a history of self-destructing, which, yeah, true. And she goes on to say, you'd understand if you saw the way she trashed his car last night. And he goes, she what? He tells her to stay out of it and focus on trials, and Kaylee scoffs and walks out. So she goes up to Jordan and to talk to her, and Jordan is pissed and tells her that she's done talking to her and everyone else. And because she says she tried to tell her foster parents about Coach Keegan, like when it happened, and they told her that she was lucky that she had someone like Coach Keegan who giving her the time of day. Jordan tells Kaylee to just let it go. So Lauren is back and practicing with the monitor and Annie and Coach Mac, and she's practicing on like the mini beam, and Wendy is there too, and Annie tells her that she needs another urine sample because they're going to be doing drug tests all throughout trials. And as Wendy's walking away, Coach Ray walks into the gym and hugs Wendy, and Coach Mac yells at her to stop and do as Annie asked and get that sample for her. And Mac tells Ray that he needs to talk to him and takes him outside. Coach McIntyre tells Coach Keegan that he needs to leave and that he doesn't want him around the girls. And Ray asks him why, and Mac says that he got a report that he acted improperly with one of them. And Coach Ray is like, improperly? What does that mean? And Mac's like, you know what that means, bro. Coach Ray's like, well, then where are the police? And Mac says the girl involved doesn't want to go to the police yet, but believe me, you're going to need a lawyer before this thing is over. Coach Ray tries his manipulation tactics on him and says, come on, I've been coaching for 25 years. Don't you think if I'd acted improperly that it would have come up by now? I mean, I've been through all the background checks that you have. And Mac's like, this isn't a girl that lies. If anything, this is a girl that's too honest. And Ray says something else, and Mac's like, why haven't you asked me who the girl is, Ray? And Coach Ray's his face kind of pales for a second. He's like, oh. And he says, well, it doesn't really matter who it is, does it? Now let me do my job. Those girls need me, and so do you. And he tries to go inside the gym again, and Mac's like, I told you to leave, actually. And Ray's like, I'm not going anywhere. The NGO hired me and I don't work for you. So, of course, Coach Mac punches him. And Ray gets up and says, "Who needs a lawyer now?" and walks off. And at Mac's house later, it's, oh, bro, I need a heating pad. Holy shit. Ow, 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 ow. Oh, I'm going down. Holy shit, ow. Oh, I'm trying to get through this fast so I can go lay down. All right. Later at Mac's house, it's him, Annie, and the NGO lady from before. And the NGO lady's like, "Did you really need to hit him?" And they talk about the situation, and she's like, "I'm just as upset as you are, but Kaylee's word just isn't enough." And she said she's spoken to the legal team and that Keegan is entitled to the presumption of innocence. If Jordan doesn't speak up, there's nothing they can do without the NGO being liable. And Coach Mac says, "Well, I'll tell you right now, if he steps 1 foot in that gym, I'll hit him again." And one thing I will say about this show, they consistently cast hot coaches. I mean, we had Marty, we had Sasha, we have Coach McIntyre. Like, not gonna lie, the punching the pedo, really hot of you, Coach Mac. So, anywho, next we have Kaylee and Payson talking about the issue, and they decide to put feelers out on some gymnastics forums and social media sites, because between them they know a ton of gymnasts, and if any of them know anyone who had experiences with Coach Keegan, so that not hopefully that they have experiences, but if any of them do, they will respond, and then Jordan won't feel so alone, because at this point she thinks she's the only one, but the girls are like, "There's no way that's true." And they set up an alert so that they can be notified if anyone applies, and it's like they can hear like the sound. So Lauren meets up with Jake, and he gives her flowers and he's got like paint all over his face, and she tells him that she'd rather have Otis, and he says that Otis is deep, deep, deep undercover. And he tells her that he's got some good news from his coach, and that it's so good that he just had to share it. And for some reason, the first person he wanted to share to was her. And he tells her that he made the Olympic team with the wrestlers and that he's going to the Olympics. And his character is so funny. I might insert a clip. Like, I love him. He's got so much charisma, and like, I don't know, he's just funny. And he says, he's like, "I know you want to give me a kiss or a hug or something, and I know you're the shy type, so you have my permission." And he just kind of stands there, and she acts like she's gonna do it, and and then she says, "Only gold medal winners get kisses." So then we have Rigo and Payson, and they go to like this Latin dance club to get some inspiration for her routine, and Rigo is so corny. Like, I can never take him seriously. He says something, Payson looks at like all the dancers, and she's like, "There's no way I can do this." And Rico says, "Yes, you can. My bright light can shine in whatever she chooses to do. Just let yourself go." Such a cornball. Also, he's saying this while wearing a fedora. A fedora, milady. Like, please. They didn't even try. So, anyways, they go out there and dance, and Payson like tries to mimic the people around her and whatever. So that night, the girls are sleeping, and Kaylee and Payson are awoken to the sound of the alert going off on their computer, meaning like it goes off like 4 or 5 times, meaning that people are responding to the, posts they put out or whatever. And they go in and look, and it's like messages from girls who are like, "Finally, I'm talking, thank God someone's talking about this, like this happened to me too," and blah blah blah. Jordan walks in, because they're like in the living room, and they show her, and she starts crying, and this I wrote, the screen's getting blurry again, and Jordan hugs Kaylee, and Kaylee's like, you aren't alone, it wasn't your fault." So Kaylee and Payson go with Jordan the next day to Coach Mac's house, and they tell him, and she talks to the policeman, and they kind of just show a silent compilation of this. And then they show Ray Keegan being arrested. The trash has been taken out Fuck you, Ray Keegan. And Jordan says Coach Mac knows a counselor that she's going to try talking to, which is good. Payson is practicing her routine for Rigo that night, and Sasha walks in because Rigo called him to help her with her routine. So they work on that. Rigo leaves. Which, Rigo, you bold for leaving her alone with Sasha. But Sasha says to Rigo, Romeo, beat it. So next morning, Kaylee and her parents were called in to come into town. And they go meet with Marcus and Coach Mac and Annie, and they inform her that she failed her drug test and that she tested positive for pseudoephedrine, which is found in cold medicines but can also be used as a performance aid. And Kaylee's like, I never took anything, I never even had a cold. And Alex, of course, is like, this is bull, what can we do? And Marcus says there's nothing you can do. And Ronnie's like, are you calling my daughter a liar right now? And Marcus says, you are aware that pseudoephedrine can also be used as an appetite suppressant? See, this is when Marcus pisses me off, because what the hell are you trying to insinuate? Alex accuses Marcus of having an agenda, and he says you haven't wanted her to compete ever since she went against the NGO and told the public about her eating disorder. And Alex says there are false positives with these kinds of tests, and that they should at least give Kaylee a blood test to be sure. And Marcus says the NGO does not allow extra tests, and Alex blows up on him. And Kaylee's like, so what does this mean? And Coach Mac says it means she can't compete in trials that day and that she won't be going to the Olympics, and Kaylee runs out of the room. So Jordan, Lauren, and Payson talk about Kaylee, and Wendy comes up and is like, I knew she was getting too thin and I didn't say anything. The other girls kind of just stare at her for a second, and she's like, it's true, it's why I made her all of those smoothies. And then she walks away, and Lauren's like, I am so tired of that goody-goody act. Because she reminds me of someone, me. So Lauren comes up with an idea to help cheer Kaylee up. So the four girls, Kaylee, Payson, Lauren, and Jordan, go out to find Otis, because Lauren's like, it cheered me up when I was in the hospital, so I thought it might help cheer you up too. And Kaylee is not having it. She's like, this is not a freaking joke, you guys. But Lauren said she found out where Otis is being hidden because of the flowers that Jake gave her only grow around this one fountain on the grounds, and that, you know, Jake had paint on his face and said he was deep undercover, so they find him disguised as a rock in the waterfall thing, like it's like covered in rocks. So Lauren gets into the fountain and digs Otis out of the rocks. And they're like having fun and being silly, and Payson and Lauren are. And they try to get Kaylee to rub his head for luck, but she's like, this isn't a game, and leaves. And then she's back in her room, like packing up and crying, and Austin walks in, and he apologizes for how he treated her and says he was hurt and embarrassed and didn't feel worthy of her, and instead he blamed her, and he tells her good luck at trials and that he's sure he'll do great. And he goes to leave, and Kaylee's like, I won't be competing. And so she tells him about what happened. And then Payson, Lauren, and Jordan talk to Coach Mac and Marcus, and they tell them that the drug test is bogus. And Jordan's like, Kaylee's my roommate. I've seen her eat, and I know her habits. Her eating disorder is under control. She says that she's not going to compete in the trials if they don't let Kaylee compete. Give her the blood test. And Payson and Lauren do the same thing. They agree. They're like, we're not competing either. And Jordan says, look, just let her compete and give her the blood test. You owe her that much. And they walk out, and Marcus says to Mac, the NGO doesn't give in to threats. And that was the worst case of insubordination I've ever seen. And Coach Mac goes, that or the greatest team ever. Like, Marcus is being a freaking dick. I'm tired of him. So they then show Kaylee talking to Austin and, you know, confiding in him about the situation and how unfair it is that they're holding her past against her. And he tells her not to give up and that he knows what it's like to lose everything and not to lash out at her friends and family because she's like complaining about them. At the end of the conversation, she then gets a call from Coach Mac, and they cut after that. The trials then begin that afternoon, and a bunch of the other teams are there to watch the gymnasts. The wrestlers are there, and they like announce all the teams, and then they announce the gymnastics team, and they come in and they are holding Otis. And the competition starts, and Kaylee is indeed allowed to compete. Yay! So she thanks the girls for helping her, and she goes to do her vault, and Kelly Parker, our girl, shows up and to watch Kaylee, and she, they have a cute little moment and hug, and it makes Kaylee feel a lot better that she's there for her because she's been so rattled from all the drama. She does her vault flawlessly, and Coach talks it up to Marcus and says Genji Cho was the only one with that move and that we could really use her in London. And Marcus is like, it's all up to the blood test, and we both know what it's gonna say. She goes over and like celebrates with the girls, and Wendy like makes a comment under her breath like, too bad you won't be going to London. And Lauren kind of like is the only one that hears her and kind of gives her a look. And then Jordan goes to do her bars, and Coach Mac goes to talk to her, and he's like, look, I understand why you wouldn't do the layout, Jordan. You didn't want to give anything that to Coach Ray, but the triple back is all you, and you own it. So go there and kill it. And she's like, I'm going to smoke that triple, and maybe you should step back before you get burned. So, also I would like to mention in this season, they get really sloppy with hiding the faces of the stunt doubles when they're showing their routines. Like, the first two seasons, not great. This season, really not great with that. And this Jordan's routine here, oh my god, you can literally just see the face, and like that's clearly not Jordan. And also later, I'm pretty sure they use the same stunt double for Payson and Lauren because they're both blondes. But it's so bad, dude. So anyways, Jordan does the routine and sticks her triple back dismount. And then they're over at the bleachers, and Lauren tries to borrow Wendy's lip gloss, and Wendy snatches it out of her hands and says, no, sorry, I'm kind of a germaphobe. Lauren asks her what she meant when she said that Kaylee's not going to London. And Wendy says, because she's taking pseudoephedrine, and that shows up in your blood, not just your urine. And Lauren's like, oh, aren't you the expert? How did you know what she was taking? And Wendy's like, well, everyone knows, don't they? And Lauren's like, no, actually, Kaylee didn't want anyone to know. And then Lauren kind of gives her like a comfortable look, and Wendy's like, oh. But it is then Lauren's turn to go and do her beam routine, and Annie is checking her heart, and Summer is there watching as well, and Steve and the NGO people are there, and they think there's no way she completes the routine without, hitting the 5 spikes because of the added stress of the competition, and they are such Debbie Downers. Like, have some faith in these girls, please. So she does her routine, and she has 4 spikes, and before she does her dismount, and she looks over at Jake, and he like guides her through a deep breath from up on the beam, which I think you're on a time limit up there. But she takes a deep breath, and she nails her dismount, and she has no more spikes. So she completed it without hitting the 5th spike. So the NGO people look pleasantly surprised, and Coach Mac is lit. He's happy after every one of these routines. I love that man. Wendy's up next on something, I don't know, and Lauren uses this opportunity to leave the gym and go break into Wendy and Payson's room and look through Wendy's things to see if she can find anything that links her to the pseudoephedrine, because she's now very suspicious of Wendy. Also, I don't think there's any way you could actually do this during a real Olympic trials. But anyways, she finds the envelope that the drugs were delivered in, and she also searches Wendy's computer, which, did they not have passwords back then? But anyways, she finds the order receipt from this website that was on the envelope and prints it out. Of course, Lauren figured all this out because she this is something she would have done, right? She can get in the head of this crazy bitch Wendy. Payson talks to her dad about what she should do with her routine, either the safe or the salsa, and he tells her to write her own history and blah, blah, blah. So Payson gives the coach and she tells him that he's about to find out what she can do. And she's wearing like a spicy red leotard, and Sasha's there watching, and she kills the routine, obviously. And that is the end of the competition. It's now time for deliberations. They show the deliberations. It's like Coach Mac and Marcus and NGO Lady and some other people. And they have like the names on the board of the top 5 finishers, and they are Jordan, Wendy, Payson, Kaylee, and Colleen Evans, who, that's a name that has been around in season 1, I'm pretty sure. Just like a nondescript gymnast that's kind of in the periphery of the whole show. And Marcus says there's no way Kaylee will be able to compete. Kaylee is doing her drug test in the other room, the blood test, and Lauren comes storming in and says she's like, you're going to test positive again, and then goes storming into the deliberation room at exactly the moment that Mac is in the middle of a sentence, and he's saying, I really think we should reconsider law, because they don't have Lauren on the top 5. She storms in and she whips out the envelope, and she says, it was that little bitch Wendy. And then y'all, why? We didn't freaking need this, bro. But they show a little moment between Sasha and Summer as some sort of fan service, because I'm assuming fans liked them together. I don't like Summer with anyone. But anyways, at this point, we haven't seen them in 8 episodes. Who freaking cares at this point? So Sasha's like talking about regrets with Emily and about his regrets with her, and she tells him that some things just aren't possible, and then they kiss. They're like sitting on the bleachers, and it's just like, so where'd this kiss come from? And it's just, I don't know. And then he says, don't tell me you stopped believing in miracles, and then it cuts away. Like, please. So then Gio and Coach Mac and Lauren and Kaylee, they bring Wendy in and talk to her. She's like, yeah, I ordered medicine for my cold, but when I found out what was on the banned substance list, I threw it out. And Lauren and Kaylee are there, and Lauren's like, you're lying. I bet you put it on those fruit smoothies you made her that you wouldn't let anyone else drink. And Wendy's like, but why would I do that? I like Kaylee. If I wanted to drug someone, it would be you. Like, you literally just implicated yourself, bro. And then Kaylee freaks out and was like, damn it, Wendy, tell me the truth. You drugged me, didn't you? And that was just bad acting from her. I'm going to be honest. Coach Mac is like, well, without proof. And then Lauren notices that there's lip gloss on the envelope. And she puts 2 and 2 together, and because she remembers that she wouldn't let her use her lip gloss. And she tries to grab her gym bag. She's like, it's in the lip gloss case. And Wendy and her kind of play tug of war with the bag for a second until Coach Mac is like, enough, and takes it from him. And he opens the container to see it is filled with a white powder. And then they just cut to announcing the final team that is going to the Olympics. Also, can I just point out something real quick? Do you guys remember the whole plot line from season 2 where Kaylee just had to get on the world team after her ED recovery because she was like, if I don't go to Worlds, I'm not going to go to the Olympics. When half the girls that were there training didn't go to Worlds. I just thought I'd point that out. So they announced the team, and it is Jordan, Payson, and they like show like pause on the girls' reactions, and it's like after every name is announced. Jordan, Payson, Kaylee, Colleen Evans, and Lauren Tanner. Shout out Colleen Evans. And then there's like a little feel-good compilation where like in like celebrations, and Lauren realizes that Jake took Otis and like runs after him, and Kaylee and Austin share a hug, and so you can kind of infer that they're probably gonna get back together. And Payson introduces her dad to Rigo, who like gives him a big hug, and then they show like the 5 girls on the podium and like showing the whole team, and the show ends there. And that is the end of season 3 of Make It or Break It, and the end of the entire show. Now, was it a good ending? No. No, I don't think so. So obviously this last season was a little shorter and a bit weird and just kind of a mess all around, in my opinion. But I get it was in the process of being canceled and they did what they could. So I guess we should, be thankful we got this at all. But I don't know. I feel like it deserved better. I don't know the details of why it was canceled. I'm assuming ratings, but I feel like people, I don't know. I feel like there was worse shows on ABC Family that continued longer than this. So, but the writing this season was just so lazy, and the editing was bad, and the acting, you could tell no one cared anymore, and it just also felt so rushed. I feel like so much would happen in one episode that it would, a plot line would start and end within the same episode. The whole Jordan Coach Keegan, that happened within 1.5 episodes, and then the whole Kaylee thing happened in the last half of the episode, the whole drug thing. It just felt unfinished in a way, and I think they just tried to do too much with what they had in the small amount. It was just useless plot lines, I think, a lot of time. And look, of course, overall, this show had its issues. It had lots of drama that was kind of unrealistic, unlikable characters, and plot holes, and just very unrealistic gymnastics things that just don't happen in the real world. But, it also tackled some real issues that do exist in women's gymnastics and women's sports in general, eating disorders, sexual abuse, racism, politics behind a lot of sports, parents that try to live vicariously through their kids. I mean, it's all very real stuff that happens in real life. So, yes, while it was a silly show at times, I do commend them for tackling some real issues like that. Do I think they could have done it in a better way sometimes? Yes, but it was made in early 2010s, so I think you get what you get with the time. But yeah, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and maybe give me a like and a subscribe if you care. And if you haven't seen my other videos on this show, go watch them. And give me recommendations for if I should do any other shows like this. I know a lot of shows have been done already. But if there's obscure TV shows that you love that no one's talked about in a long time, let me know. I've got some ideas. Do you guys see Under the Dome? That was an obscure TV show that literally me and one person I know watched. Or what's the one, Ravenwood? It was the Pretty Little Liars spinoff that lasted one season that Caleb was the lead of. What else? I don't know. I've seen a lot of TV shows, a lot. Or 90210, but not the really old one, the remake. That one's good. That one's got a lot of drama. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have never seen this show, I'd recommend watching it. It's on Prime Video for free. So if you have Amazon Prime, obviously. But let me know your favorite episode of the show, or your favorite plotline, or your favorite character, or anything in the comments. But thanks for watching. Bye.